Tom Vasel. Welcome to the AlphaBest series of games where I give you my top 10 games from each letter of the alphabet. And we are up to the letter P. And I gotta be honest, I've gone through all the letters, and other than maybe the letter S, P may be the most difficult letter to do because there were so many good games. So inevitably, and there's always people in the comments, why didn't you put this game? Because it probably just missed the list. Well, there's also a chance I hated it. But here are my 10 favorite games that start with the letter P. Number 10, Poseidon's Kingdom. This is a great game, and I will grant that part of it is I love this game because of the dice wave mechanism, where there's this big wave, and you're stacking dice, and every once in a while you knock them down, and they fall, scatter on the board, and where they land matters. And other than that, you're moving these beautiful little pieces around trying to escape shark. But it all fits together in a really solid game, and there's also a little building of a little grid on your side that gives you special abilities. A cool game that was overlooked, but just actually had a new edition come out, Poseidon's Kingdom. Number 9 is an abstract strategy game called Pentago. In Pentago, you're trying to get 5 in a row. You're going to do that by placing a piece and then rotating a piece of the board. So the whole time, you're trying to get 5 in a row diagonally or orthogonally, and you got to be careful because you put a piece and then rotate. You don't want to set the other person up to rotate or put a piece in. It's a fast game. They made a 4-player version of it, which is okay, but it's best, I think, at 2 players. They have versions with marbles. They have versions with discs. It is a pure abstract game, one of the best there is. Number 8 is Paperback. Mixing deck building with words should not work. It sounded awful. I played it and I loved it. It's a really great 2-player game, actually. My wife and I enjoy it because she likes making the words and I like the deck building aspect of it. And it's solid, has a cool theme, cool artwork, this almost noir feel to it. Plays quickly, and even if you're not someone who's like a wordaholic like I'm not, the deck building kind of balances that out. It's not just a word game. There's a solid game in there beyond that. Paperback. Number 7 is Police Precinct. I like cooperative games. This is one where you're police officers, which every time I think about this, I'm astounded that this is the only game I can think of where you're police officers. And that's such a good theme, and you're going around and you're stopping riots. I mean, this is a terrible city. There's hostage situations and all this going on. Meanwhile, all this is going on, and you have this overarching story of catching a murderer and figuring out who that is. So you're doing all that before time runs out. Great, strong thematic game, Police Precinct. Number 6 is Pixel Tactics. This is a 2-player game in which you are building a grid, which will have at most in it 9 cards. Although Pixel Tactics Deluxe has added a few more to that. But each card in the deck, which are pixelized for whatever reason, can be played. When it's played in the front row, it does one thing. When it's played in the middle row, it does another thing. When it plays in the back row, it does something else. If you flip it and it becomes your leader, it does something else. And if you play it as a special action card from your hand, it does something else. And that interaction back and forth, they came out with Pixel Tactics 2, 3, 4, 5. They're all the same thing, just different characters. It's quick, it's fun, it's fast. I like it. Then we have, for number 5, Power Grid. I would have gotten yelled at if I didn't put Power Grid. I'm probably going to get yelled at because it's not number 1, because people love this game. This is a big, hefty economic game where you're buying and selling resources, auctioning for power plants, powering different grids throughout cities, and doing so the best you can. This game is deep. It can go all the way up to 6 players, and surprisingly even works with 6 players. Just every time I played this, there's lots of different maps for the game, but it's a tense, intriguing game. One of the best games ever designed, and I do enjoy it. Number 4 is the Pillars of the Earth board game, based on a very popular book, Pillars of the Earth. I think it has some of the theme. I've actually still not read the book, Pillars of the Earth. But this game just is a worker placement game with a twist. I mean, it's a beautiful game. The board is one of the best ever made for any game. And just all the pieces and components just all fits together thematically. But you're pulling workers from a bag, and my workers pulled first. I get to put it out. Ha, 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 but I got to pay more money to do that. So that's a tough thing. So you're like, I don't want to pay that money. But now you're not going first anymore. So there's kind of an interesting mechanism there, which I haven't really seen used in many other games. Added to a very good middleweight worker placement game. It doesn't overstay its welcome. And again, like I said, gorgeous components. The Pillars of the Earth. Number 3 is a game that was number 1 on Board Game Geek for a very long time, but I still love it very much, and that's Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is a game in which you are building a settlement in San Juan, and you are getting goods and shipping those goods back to Europe, and you are trying to do so in the most economically possible way you can. The game revolves around me picking a role, and everyone does the same thing, except the person who picks the role gets a special action. And this game is heavy on strategy to the point where a new player can mess the game up to some degree. But in the past few years, I've been playing with groups of expert players. I know this because I don't win, but there's this tense feeling to it. And they released a 10th anniversary edition a few years ago, which is just gorgeous. Puerto Rico. Number 2 is Pandemic Legacy. Pandemic actually didn't make the list. It made my short list. I think Pandemic's a great game, but Pandemic Legacy has just been an amazing experience. Every time I think about it, I'm happy. I got to play 12 games, or I forget how many games we went through, 15 games or whatever, of Pandemic Legacy, where the game evolved and you started basically playing basic Pandemic, and then things changed and it was cinematic and stories going on and cool things and customized, and you were like, oh, when something bad happened to some place or some person. And it's a great story when we're done. Wow, I still highly remember every game of this that I played. It has to be high on my P list. And then my favorite game that starts with the letter P is one that most people probably wouldn't put there, but I played this game so many times, and that is Pitch Car. Pitch Car is a game that I take to conventions, that I take to youth group, that I take to anywhere I can go and set up a big giant track, and we're flicking cars around this track. It is an amazing time, and everyone has a lot of fun doing it. It works well with different age groups. It is gorgeous. It's heavy. You got to get some muscles carrying it around, and it's not cheap. But it's, to me, like buying a ping pong table. All I need is a big table to set it up, and I can play 16 or more people, and I guarantee you, people are going to come and be interested in it. So those are my favorite games that start with the letter P. Next time, oh no, the letter Q. Well, I'll see you guys then. Until then, I'm Tom Vasel. This has been the AlphaBest List, and you're watching the Dice Tower.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching the Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.